Thank you, Representative Delisio. And to address their own freedom of information policy, it's not the law. We have a right to know law. The federal government has a Freedom of Information Act. It's a law. Because an organization that doesn't fall under our law creates their own policy to create a facade of transparency doesn't mean that it creates the transparency that you otherwise would have through an elected body of representatives, lawmakers actually making a law that says that you're going to be required to give this information. They can or they cannot abide by their own policy. They choose whether they abide by their policy or not. And for us to subject ourselves as one of the three branches of government, and arguably the branch that should have the most power, to subject ourselves to audits from an auditor general who's elected in a very partisan way and representing a party would be very foolish for the legislature to subject ourselves, because of a separation of powers within the Constitution, to the auditor general's scrutiny of what we do to operate as a body and what we do to operate as a representative voices of the citizens who elect us. So there's some additional comments, because most of your comments seem to be directed to try and refute some of the testimony that was made on behalf of the commission in the letter that they put out. But when you look at what the legislature did, as I said, in 1970 and 71 when it was enacted, which the legislature prior to that had done, and entering into this compact, for anybody to look at this on the surface and say, we committed to 37.5% of the payment when we have 25% of the vote. We committed to 25% of the vote when we have the supermajority of the landmass and river flowing through the state of Pennsylvania. That's a bad deal no matter which generation makes it. And just on the surface of what they did in this agreement, it was a bad deal. Big league bad deal. I mean, this deal needs to be corrected, because there's nobody that should have made a deal like this, and nobody other than somebody in government would have made a deal like this, because a businessman like Representative Mao wouldn't have made a deal like this, or Representative Ryan, who's a businessman, wouldn't have made a deal like this.